Why would they care about the house on fire if they're not the ones in it?
We grew up side by side, but we existed worlds apart.
As hurtful as a realization it is, whoa, that's really heavy on your shoulders. The government is heavier on our shoulders. It is go out and make meaningful change. Don't talk about it, be about it. You're Lynn Jones, human rights activist, soon to be NYU student and changemaker. 5,000 followers on TikTok and 35,000 on Instagram. That's how the internet sees you, but what I want to know, who are you and what led you to where you are today?
So I am just a student who cared a lot about what was going on in her community. I was a freshman at Lovejoy High School in Lucas, Texas, and at the neighboring Allen Outlets Mall there was a shooting, and I was on the street at the time, and it was the third deadliest mass shooting of 2023. Lawmakers' responses were to arm our teachers and schools. I knew that we do not solve gun violence with more guns, and fellow students knew that as well, so I started a walkout. That was the first time that I really felt empowered as a student, like my voice carried weight and it actually reached our lawmakers. Continuing with activism, I decided to start my own organization, the Changemaker's Diary, a few months later. And at first it was just a blog where I would talk about my life as a youth activist and also try to get other people involved in activism. And one thing that I really try to focus on is, I call it accessible activism. For some people, activism does not mean marching on the streets at the Capitol. It means staying home and calling your senators from your bedroom. In November of 2024, I started posting online. Being a content creator was definitely not in the plan for me, but it just kind of happened. People were really resonating with my content. It was facilitating a lot of positive conversations, so I kept going, and now we're here.
I think you have a lot of viewers that respect you and like what you're doing, and it's very important for us as teens and the young adults of the world to do it. I think we often flip the responsibility onto us when it's not just our job, it's a bit of everyone's job. If we have the societal expectation that Gen Z, you're supposed to be the hope of the future, that's a lot of pressure to say, I have to change the whole world. So I think it's good to kind of loop everyone in and find a way everyone can be included, because without everyone, there's no way it's going to happen. You know, everyone's saying, I'm one person, I can't change the world. There's 8 billion people saying that. And so if we start to all do a little bit of our part, everything will get so much better. You're on the political side of activism, while I'm more on the environmental. So I wanted to combine the two to kind of talk about the law side of environmental acts and what that looks like behind a news headline. First, I wanted to pull it back to January 20th, 2025, where the U.S. pulled out of the Paris Climate Treaty, not for the first, but the second time. The purpose of the treaty is to regulate greenhouse gas emissions, and it runs on a 5-year cycle. So the participating countries submit their plans to regulate greenhouse gas emissions, as well as how they will adapt to the rising temperatures, to submit a plan. And the scientific goal of the agreement is to keep global warming below 2 degrees Celsius, hopefully 1.5 degrees Celsius. And when you hear that, you're like, what does that even mean? That doesn't make sense. But it's basically just tracking a rise in global average temperature, and if that starts to rise above 2 degrees Celsius, we'll start seeing major problems. And that may not sound like much, but 2025 was one of the top 3 hottest years on record, and it's facing a steep incline without action. And to many people, I think it seems that we're helpless in situations like this, but history shows that petitions and protests by citizens influenced Congress to make a rule prohibiting the president from pulling out of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, in 2023. I want to know what your opinion is on how we as citizens can use our voice and utilize our First Amendment rights to make a change on a legal standpoint, as well as advocating and educating.
Beyond, of course, voting, the midterm elections are coming up on November 3rd, 2026. If you are old enough to vote, your vote absolutely matters, and you need to be looking into candidates who are going to push back against these policies, who are going to get into Congress and advocate for the environment, advocate for congressional and presidential accountability to not allow presidents to continue withdrawing the entire country from, pacts that are so critical. I mean, I think that's a lot of power vested that went unchecked. Who's going to vote in favor of the environment, and also who's going to keep the president in check? Call your lawmakers. Tell them your story. Tell them why environmental activism matters to you. 2025 is one of the top 3 hottest years, but I believe the first and second were also in the 2020s as well. 2023 and 2024, evidence of a trend, not going to be mitigated unless something is actually done about it. And the lawmakers know these facts. What they don't know are our stories. There's a data center that has been brought up in your community that is significantly impacting your livelihood. Maybe it's running up prices at your nearby grocery stores, or your gas prices. If it's a real tangible story, I think it has more impact.
Everyone has such a different individual story, and I think it doesn't affect the higher ups as much, because in my American government class last semester we had a mock political election and I had to write a presidential campaign speech, and I ended it with the saying of, why would they care about the house on fire if they're not the ones in it? The Constitution really doesn't live in our politicians' hearts anymore. They've started to lose that sense of citizen empathy and morals and values. Theirs are very vastly different from ours, and we see it reflected in laws and, like you said, trend, because it happened again in February when Trump repealed the greenhouse gas endangerment finding, meaning that there's a large amount of greenhouse gases such as methane and CO2 that won't have regulations on their factory productions anymore, as well as the emissions from large, medium, and small vehicles, which is a huge contributor. You see the semis driving down the road and the smoke coming out. Now imagine that, but with no regulations at all. I thought you would be a great person to ask this because you're a pretty avid protester. You advertise that a lot on your social media, because as an environmentalist, it's something I think about. A lot of people we see now doubt the effectiveness of peaceful protest. What I wonder about is the environmental impact. While protests are a fun way to spread the word and create unity within specific demographics, there's billions of posters, glitter bombs, themed hats and clothes, and so much more that are purchased and produced for them every single day. Do you think that protests produce enough change to outweigh the environmental impact they have, and where have we seen statistics supporting or denying that?
I definitely agree. It is a bit disparaging when I'm at, say a protest and someone's holding a sign that's like, fight for climate freedom, and then another person is popping off the confetti cannons, and I'm like, wow, how contradictory. The confetti that's gonna stay on the park grounds for days after we leave, and the birds are gonna eat it. That's great. I do think it all is in good nature, and I don't think people are taking that extra step to think about the environmental impact that those things are gonna have. I wish they did. Actually, I've never had somebody bring that up to me before, but that's a really unique point. Large-scale changes when our lawmakers are noticing, why are people taking off work, in the hundreds to march down the streets chanting for something? What do they want? What are they talking about? I think that's a really powerful message that in the long run has a tremendous impact beyond that of, some of the leftovers of a protest.
I think that protests are definitely a great thing when they're done correctly, because you see a lot of people now changing their TikTok profiles to purple, and it's like, we have to think what we're dedicating our time to that's going to be very useful, because while it is a fun thing to spread unity, that won't have change. You can't say, I'm changing my profile picture to purple, I support this. Just go out and make meaningful change. Don't talk about it, be about it. You can't pretend like you're super meaningful of a cause and then put the pressure on everyone else to make the change. To not have an opinion is far worse than being on the bad side of it. We have to be a part of this, because if we're not, nothing will change. As hurtful as a realization it is, and it feels, whoa, this is really heavy on your shoulders. The government is heavier on our shoulders. Overcome that, take that off our shoulders, and then we can deal with them. But they will stay there as long as we stay here. If we stay in our comforts, a lot of people are going to be stripped of theirs. So I want to talk about, this is more fun, less political and depressing, but you recently got accepted to NYU. It was a very adorable video. Made me tear up a little bit. You say you're going for politics. So what are you going to do with that degree, and how do you see yourself using it to create an impact in the future?
I am very adamant on running for office. Yes, I'm going for politics, but of course there's different branches within politics. I'm going for politics on the American public policy and leadership track, specifically focusing on going into politics to run for office and be an elected official. I think I would definitely want to start with a local office and then maybe run to be a House rep, because I think they have closer connections with their constituents. Just last week, I went to a meeting with my U.S. representative. Getting to have a real one-on-one conversation with her. I told her what I cared about, and I felt that she truly listened, and then I got the rundown of some things happening in Washington straight from her. A few policies that I would definitely be running on are things like gun violence prevention, reinstating DEI policies, as the daughter of a Black mother and the sister of Black siblings, and I think that's something a lot of people don't know about me, because, don't know if you know, but I'm white, it's like, people are like, what? But, I do come from a very diverse family, so, reinstating those policies and seeing how those affect people, it's kind of, we grew up side by side, but we existed worlds apart. People underestimate the impact of money. The U.S. is, I think, the second leading country in greenhouse gas emissions. but it's also the leading producer in oil and gas. Who's benefiting from that? It's our politicians, it's these oil and gas companies getting the money from extracting the oil, are also putting their money back into elected officials and campaigns so that these elected officials, once they do get into office, will vote in favor of them. Hard to see when candidates aren't very open and honest about who is funding. I would definitely say that looking on even as simple as like open secrets, seeing who is funding your politicians, because that is going to be how they vote.
I think a very important part of it, it's very simple. Stay small, stay local. I understand it's so much more expensive that way. Farmers markets and, to get fresh produce, and not everyone has that. That's not an available option for a lot of people. There's a lot of food deserts and poverty and scarcity, but if you have the option, it's definitely something you should be switching to. You should be using your privilege for a greater good. And also, stop buying new stuff, guys. If you feel the hankering for something new, go to a used store, go to a garage sale, check out Facebook Marketplace. We live in such a materialistic society. We don't need more stuff, guys. You shouldn't be able to do an aesthetic spring cleaning closet clean out every 3 months. You shouldn't have enough stuff to be able to do that. Go outside, touch a tree, play in some mud, because the materialism that has taken over society today is to such a vast degree that we're too blind to see it, obviously. Do you need it? No. I'll say no, you don't.
Absolutely.
And
90% of my closet is thrifted. I drink so many of these a day. I have had this hydro flask, and I got it from somebody else. I did not buy it brand new even in 8th grade. And I'm going off to college, and I've never had a different water bottle. You don't need them in every color. You just need the one. Soap and water, and it's reusable. I feel like we really missed that word in there. Reusable water bottle. Using shopping as an outing all the time. We live right next to a national park. It's like, let's go to the national park, let's go for a hike. Or if we are going to go shopping, let's go to the thrift store. Or let's go to the bins. Changing the conversation of, let's go volunteering together. Let's go walk the dogs at the animal shelter.
especially the coffee runs every day. I don't understand how people get that much coffee. And like the water bowl thing, this was a hand-me-down. It's literally, the metal is like basically scratched off of it. You can't see the logo anymore. Let's make hiking a trend again, guys. Let's make going outside and getting fresh air a trend again. That's so important. I want to know what your final piece of advice to everyone watching today is. What is something they can get out there, get doing? What do you recommend to these people to help make the change they want to see?
Less of my advice, I'm more just parroting off of someone else. I met the First Lady of Minnesota, Gwen Walls, last summer when I was training with Students Demand Action in Minnesota. She said, "We are informed by facts, but empowered by our stories." I live by this quote. I tell it to people all the time because it's true. We all have the same facts at hand, our lawmakers included. Our politicians are just people. They have the same facts that you and I are saying. They know what's going on, but they don't know our stories. Leveraging your personal narrative as a call to action is so powerful. Whatever it may be, make the issue personal so that your lawmakers have something to connect to, and they can take that connection to the halls of Congress and they can use it. It's going to carry more weight than a fact.
That was really great advice. That's a good quote, and it's so cool that you get to meet people like that. But thank you guys so much for watching. We are streaming on YouTube and Spotify. Check out Lynn's page, check out the website, and let us know what you guys want to see next time. Bye.